Techbusters proudly brought to you by Ericsson.
Last week we were talking about a revolution. This week we are having one, and I am speaking first. Yes, that's right. I have managed to get my voice in before the great Mr. Aki Anastasio.
Yeah, well, you bring a new meaning to the word drone with that kind of voice. Talking about technology. Good evening and welcome to Techbusters. Join the conversation. We're at Techbusters SA. If you want to tweet us direct, please engage with us. Tell us about the technologies that you're using. He's at Shap Shack. I'm at Aki Anastasiou. But before we do anything tonight on Techbusters, take a look at what's coming up on the show.
Tonight on Techbusters, we have an exclusive interview with Cassper Nyovest about his collaboration with AG Mobile on their new smartphone. And Aki gets the tech scoop from Tim Wade about Dimension Data's involvement in this year's Tour de France. All this and so much more tonight on Techbusters.
As the local government elections near, there's some good news afoot, just a little bit. There's a new online tool that aims to help voters hold their representatives accountable. It does sound a little amazing in theory, but the People's Assembly Parliamentary Platform recently announced a website that they hope is going to allow citizens connect with ward councillors. These are the people on the ground actually implementing government policy and, one would assume, listening to the voters. The People's Assembly online tool lists phone numbers and email addresses of councillors as well as members of parliament for the various districts. So if you're not happy with your ward councillor, be proactive and get in contact, and hopefully you can get them to do something if they answer the email and their phone addresses.
But you know, this is wonderful. This is what this great revolution that we're talking about. You're putting power in people's hands. That little device that you're holding in your hands. I mean, you think about it. This is a basic way of communicating with the people that you ultimately vote for. But
how dare you call my device little? It's a phablet.
Okay, whatever it is, settle down. But the point is that with these kind of e-services, you know, when you have e-government, you start introducing your bills coming through, which in some cases it's available. But if you can do everything electronically in the same way that you're doing this process, you know how much you eliminate, how much time, how much clutter you eliminate. I think it's fantastic.
No, I think so too. But, you know, in this instance, just the ability to have the details of the right person to contact. You know, I use Twitter to find the ward councillor in my suburb. You know, I didn't even occur to me to look at a government website. You know, so the fact that people can find who the person is to contact and then be able to contact them directly, that's a huge advantage.
No doubt. And in the same way that businesses are focusing on being digitized, so do governments around the world with these e-services, the Internet of Things, really making governments agile. And if they're not connected and move at a rapid pace, they're simply going to be left behind, like the likes of Nokia and other big businesses that have failed in the past. Now, South Africa has set aside 250 million to start the first phase of a broadband rollout, and will approach the private sector, which is quite interesting, banks and development institutions, about additional funding. The telecommunications minister has said this in a recent announcement. Now, construction will start in 3 months, so we're looking forward to that, and I think it's just another way of breaking down those barriers, bringing more broadband. And I must say that for the first time this year, I'm really getting a sense that we are taking broadband a lot more seriously. You're seeing a concerted effort from the telecommunications department, not only in South Africa, but the rest of Africa. And if you're out there in Africa, wherever you might be on the continent, let us know about the speeds. Tweet us at Techbusters SA. Say, give us the capital that you're in and tell us the average internet speeds that you're getting, where you're connecting, whether it be via mobile or whether it's a fixed line or whether you're using fiber. We are joined in studio with Cassper Nyovest. Now, Cassper's a legend in South Africa, and he's a legend in the tech industry as well, and he's released this device that you've heard about a lot. So we're going to talk to him about this and just talk about Cassper, what he's up to, what's up next, because he's like seriously a tech-savvy dude. He knows what's happening. This is such a cool device. And you know what? People love you, people love your music, people respect your music, but you're doing cool stuff. And I've been playing around with this phone that you've released with AG Mobile.
The relationship started when I was doing the Dome last year, and we were looking for sponsorship, and we sat down and they were very interested in it, and them being in the industry of like mobile devices. We spoke about making a phone, and you know, on the onset I told them I wouldn't want to do something that's like normal, you know, and we'd have to design something from scratch. So we sat down and we came up with all these ideas. One of them was how the phone looked. For me, I wanted it to like really stand out, you know, and we came up with this red design that comes from a design that was made by Kanye West. He had this shoe called the Red October.
So you're saying that you picked up the idea of this phone.
Yes.
And did you say to the guys at AG Mobile, I want this on the phone? Because I look at the specs, there's a 13 megapixel camera. This thing's got LTE. This is, you know, for what you're paying, it's a superb phone.
Definitely. I told them, you know, I wouldn't want to have a phone that I just sell, you know, to people for the sake of making money. I would love to have a phone that I use myself, you know, also it meets my needs. You know, me being one of the people who are like very strong on social media, I take a lot of pictures and I'm always on the internet, you know, so I also use it as a hotspot device when I travel, you know, and I don't have Wi-Fi. I just switch on the hotspot and I use it for internet. So it was definitely a phone that was designed around my needs, which is basically, you know, the needs of like everybody who's addicted to social media like I am.
I mean, what's important for you on the phone?
I want the picture to, I mean, first of all, I live like a very like lavish like lifestyle, like hip hop lifestyle. So you need a camera that kind of, you know, that can capture those moments and quality, and you know, and when you put them on your social media, it should look the way it is in reality. I've always had expensive taste, but I never could afford it. I could never afford the shoes that I wanted, like, you know, the kicks that I wanted. I could never afford the type of jewelry I wanted to wear, and you know, it all comes from there. Just, you know, wanting, you know, aspiring to become something. And hip hop has been one of the genres or the cultures that really has inspired us as young black people across the world. You know, because most of the stories is all like kids who come from the hood, and you know, they were able to become these big stars in the world just by concentrating on their art and just keep on crafting and practicing. Well, most of us have the story of coming from average backgrounds, and some people very poor backgrounds, and having these big dreams. And that's where, you know, the words are derived from, like, really.
And and you inspire so many people. Who inspired you when you were growing up? Did you have like a role model or
I think
an artist?
my biggest inspiration was Kanye West and WHP. Like WHP comes from the same neighborhood I come from, which is Unit 5 in Mafikeng. So his house is like 7 houses away from mine. And me as a kid seeing him on TV and seeing him walk through the street, you know, it made me think, you know, it's very possible, you know, if someone who comes from my neighborhood could, you know, make it on TV and become this big star, and really inspired me.
Tell us about Nadia. Now, this is interesting. It's an interesting collaboration with the two of you. Tell us how that came about.
Nadia is an artist that I signed, and she's been in the industry for a while, and we've been checking her out. And with the uprising of female rappers in the country, we decided, you know, we also have to partake in this, and she was the perfect candidate. She had such a great foundation, and we called into the studio. She was keen to listen to what we had to say, and we put out her first single called Muddy Back, and you know, it has become her biggest song to date, which means the collaboration has worked out, and we look forward to
That's awesome,
growing.
Man. It's awesome that you like to bringing up these young artists and you know, because this is the future of the industry. Talking about the industry, what's the story with the Summers?
The Summers, you know, it's a very. The honest truth is, you know, I really don't get the Summers. You know, with me last year, I had questions and they didn't answer my questions, or I wasn't satisfied with their answers, and me not understanding what goes on with the Summers. You know, I don't understand how a panel of people who may like you or may not like you decide, you know, if you win an award or not. I like the metros because, it's a public vote.
Yeah.
People get to decide who their champion is, and, with me not understanding what happened with the Summers, I decided, let me just stand this one out and not be the guy who's like tweeting or asking questions. I didn't want to be part of that. And also me realizing after I lost so many awards at the Summers that I still became the biggest artist of the year. So.
Yeah, a lot of people, you tweeted earlier about us, they want to know about your hair growth at the back.
Yeah.
What is it about? Because that's quite interesting.
It's just a thing I have going on that, just to stand out.
Yeah.
I'm like Avatar, the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
I'm connecting to something, like some spirit.
Is Avatar like your kind of movie genre that you like? Do you like that kind of stuff?
Definitely. It's a great love song. Love. It's a romantic movie, like a very powerful, it's got this very powerful love quotes that I remember from it, like I see you, and also like it's very different, like just being unique. Those creatures are so unique, and also like there's so many things that I learned from Avatar, and its animation is crazy.
You're inspirational.
Shout out. Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
my brother. Take care.
It was a great interview.
Thank you.
Got great energy. Man.
Taishira Santa Maria is the head of product and marketing at AG Mobile, and thank you for joining us. But what a fantastic year you've had. You've managed to, entice or, sponsor a superstar like Cassper Nyovest, for example. He's designed this device that's coming at 3,500 Rand, and it's an amazing device. How did you guys get this right?
Our CEO is quite a dreamer,
yeah,
and always coming up with big ideas. And so from a marketing perspective, when I looked around at the profile of a celebrity that we may want to be associated to, Cassper kind of came to mind at first, because he's not only is he quite big at the moment, but just his story is so inspirational, coming from nothing and building this massive brand.
Tell us a little bit about the AG Mobile brand, because many people may not have heard it because it might not be as massive as all the other ones, but this is a proudly South African company, and you guys are doing great stuff. Tell us about AG.
So AG Mobile has been around for many years. 2007 is really, when it came into effect, and in 2014 we rebranded from AG Cellular to AG Mobile. We're stocked in just about every retailer now. We do business with the networks, and we've made some serious headway into the smartphone market share. Feature phone we're extremely strong in. That's sort of where our legacy comes from. And now we're starting to move into the higher end, offering customers great devices like the AG Mobile hashtag.
What about the rest of the continent? Because we're in a continent that we were just talking with Ericsson just the other day. They were saying that at the moment it's just under 200 million smartphone users on the continent, but by the end of this decade, that number is going to move up to 700 million. So there's 500 million consumers out there that want devices.
Absolutely, and we have realized the opportunity. So we're not just a proudly South African brand, we're a proudly African brand. We're present in 9 countries in Africa at the moment. We launched Nigeria in December, on the 12th of December last year. There's a huge opportunity for us as a low-cost smartphone manufacturer to kind of bridge that divide that the networks have with their 2G to 3G migration. As you know, that is an extremely big objective for all networks across the board, from an efficiency perspective, from a cost perspective. So we're very involved in that in a lot of our markets.
But you guys do things very differently as well. I mean, aside from the actual value of the phone, which is fantastic, I've noticed in previous releases of devices, you pack in a lot of the other additional value, like, with batteries, for example. You actually make it an experience.
Even with the hashtag, it comes with, things like a screen protector and a limited edition earphones in the box, and a cover, which normally you would need to go out and buy for yourself. Yeah, we find that where we can offer the customer additional value and it's not going to kill us, we want to do that for our customer. We want to make sure that they get the best value for their money.
So what's next after this?
We've got a long road ahead of us, when it comes to this. We want to carry it through into the sort of end of the year high sales period. However, we have quite a few other things on the cards. I mentioned to you a very big project that we're busy working on at the moment, not just on a local level, but on a global level, and which will span across Africa and maybe even spill over into some of Europe or even into the States.
Something exciting to look forward to. Congratulations, well done, and we wish you guys strength. You're doing fantastic stuff, and creating the uniqueness about the brand, which is quite difficult to differentiate in a very, very traded market right now. You guys seem to be doing it, so well done. So the Tour de France is coming up in just a few weeks' time, and one of the companies that's really responsible for the technology is Dimension Data, our very own Dimension Data. They're taking analytics of all the cyclists, analyzing this as they're racing in the Tour de France, and they send up the data up into the cloud. It's being analyzed, it's being visualized on our television screens, and they're getting really sophisticated. They're not just picking up the heart rate and the cadence of the cycles and how fast they're cycling. They're even able to pick up things like their sweat, analyze their sweat, find out what nutrition their bodies are losing, and know that in, say, 30 kilometers, this cyclist might be running low on glucose. This is the kind of technology that is involved in a race like the Tour de France, and Dimension Data is the company that's responsible for the technology. And I got hold of them at EMC World. I spoke to the head of the technical side who's developed the program onto what goes behind the analytics. What data are they collecting from Tour de France? Check this out, it's fascinating.
Last year we became the technology partner and a sponsor of the ASO and the Tour de France, and what that basically enabled us to do is to develop and implement a technology solution that enables us to track the riders through GPS and then do analytics around that.
It's quite extraordinary technology because once you start doing that, you pick up all sorts of interesting analytics about what they're doing. Are you tracking heart rate as well and cadence and all those other things as well on the bikes?
So at the moment we just do GPS with the ASO specific races, but in other races that we're doing, in other events, we are doing heart rate, speed, cadence and power.
What are the interesting things that you come across? So in a big race like the Tour de France like last year, that you said, wow, we never expected that?
I think we actually did a tweet last year, one of the stages, I think it was 7 or 8, where there was a big crash. Now, I don't know if you saw the graphic, but the graphic that we had was, it was basically all the riders' speeds just going to 0. And we actually got more social media activity from that one tweet than Dimension Data had for the whole previous year. So I think what that shows to me is that people are so interested in getting this data that it was, I mean, I won't say a surprise, but it's just amazing how much that data can bring more people into the sport.
Now, the way of getting the data is quite interesting itself. I mean, you're using technologies and stuff goes up into the cloud. I mean, typically we're looking at a bike over here. Where would you put the GPS component in it?
On the solution that we use at the Tour de France, it actually sits at the rear of the saddle. So you'll have seen there's a small thing that sticks out at the back, and that's basically getting the coordinates and then sending those back over.
So you're tracking a group of riders, several hundred of them. They're racing at a hell of a speed. You got the information, and in some instances you use helicopters, right, to gather the data.
So basically all the riders work in a kind of mesh network, so the data can go to the edge, but then it will go to either a motorbike or a helicopter or a car, and then be transmitted back via the helicopter or plane to the end of the race.
What is the actual purpose of the exercise? Ultimately, at the end of the day, what kind of patterns do you want to pick up this year?
So there's two elements that we're trying to push and sort of addressing, and one of those is how do we get that data out to the live TV broadcasts. So I don't know if you know much about the solution, but we had it split into 2 separate pieces. One was the big data truck, so that we could get that real time, but then what we do in the second element is we send that up to one of our clouds, so in London and Amsterdam, and then we provide that out on a digital platform to the widest public so that they can get interactive and have it as almost a second device whilst they're watching the TV.
Where else is this industry going in terms of trends that you're seeing with sport, with big data and analytics of this kind of nature? You mentioned baseball. Any other interesting sports that you've come across?
Yeah, we've seen a big interest from around the triathlon and Ironman, so that sort of element. And obviously that contains a little bit of cycling, but it's also running and swimming. We've also seen interest from horse racing, which is kind of interesting as well, and rally. I mean, the rally, even though they're capturing that data, they're not doing anything with it. So they're getting the information, but then they're not presenting it out and monetizing it, basically. I think as technology progresses and we're seeing these lower powered, like high transmission rates technologies like LoRa or narrowband IoT, and as these sort of mature a little bit and they don't use so much power, it's there, then the technology is going to be there, and the market, I think, will explode.
You know, it's actually amazing just walking around here and looking at the kind of things and the kind of technologies that are changing the world around us, from self-driving cars being on the road by 2020 to the medical field advances that are happening. And this is why these conferences are so important in highlighting these future technologies around us. And ultimately, that connectivity is what they're saying is going to make our lives a lot better. It's going to improve our lives and start adding value to our lives.
The natural world has many tricks to teach us about efficiency and design. A mechanical engineer at Penn State University is using, get this, a carnivorous pitcher plant as inspiration for a range of new materials that could one day solve some of society's, stickiest problems. A team of scientists are developing materials known as slippery liquid infused porous surfaces, or slips. Slips can be made of liquid Teflon and can be chemically customized for different applications, such as biocompatibility for medical devices or even highly durable ones for the hull of a ship. The possibilities are endless, from keeping walls clear of graffiti, a big problem in parts of the world, to keeping aircraft free of ice, which is a real problem that could do with some solving. It's fascinating research, and again, a great example of how learning from the natural world can make our lives better. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, nature and technology.
If I put a finger near this Venus flytrap, and then you see it will just close by itself.
From the jaws of the Venus flytrap to the water-repellent leaves of the lotus plant, the natural world has a thing or two to teach us about efficiency and design.
Pitcher plant, it is designed to create a super slippery surface such that like insects such as ants will slide off into the stomach and get digested.
With support from the National Science Foundation, mechanical engineer Tak-Sing Wong's team at Penn State University is developing new materials that mimic slick coatings found in nature. They're known as slips, slippery liquid infused porous surfaces.
Think about oil transportation, the oil creating drag inside the pipeline. Think about ice sticking on the airplane wing. And from the biological aspect, like marine biofouling, sea mussels sticking on the ship hull. Imagine if we have this magical coating that nothing can stick to it.
Slips can be made of liquid Teflon and chemically customized for different applications. Think biocompatible for medical devices, or highly durable for use in rugged environments like the hull of a ship.
This one is a liquid infused surface that can repel almost anything. This is water, and then with blood. This is the oil-based octane, and last, this is the mustard.
The pitcher plant and the lotus leaf were the particular bio-inspirations behind this water harvesting system. Wong hopes it will prove useful in regions with water shortages.
We saw that it has a very good efficiency in getting water out of thin air.
Wong and his team engineer the materials and coatings to precise specifications, with form following function.
There's a chemical layer on the entire surface that is designed to hold on to the lubricant. On this particular surface, the droplets will bounce.
The possibilities are many, from keeping a wall clear of graffiti to non-sticking toilets for water conservation.
This is going to be a lifelong research project because there's so many things in nature and we are just touching at the tip of the iceberg, what we call the grand challenges in the 21st century: water, energy, health. So these are the key research area that we have been actively seeking solutions to.
Looking to Mother Nature for solutions to some sticky problems. Best not to let that bioingenuity slip away.
So one company that's pioneered health is Fitbit, and Fitbit started off with a very similar looking device many years ago that basically is a pedometer on steroids that counts your steps. But the sensors have got a lot more sophisticated, and we've seen many new devices coming out. The latest one that's been introduced to the South African market is the Fitbit Ultra, and really it fits around your arm like this, and it monitors your steps that you make every single day. It can monitor your sleep. Now the difference with this one is that this doesn't have a GPS, but you can get a good 5-day battery life from this specific device, and it's also got a clever sensor inside. So if you're wearing it, for example, and you decide to start running, it can work out that you're going upstairs or if you're running, and it will reflect all of this accordingly and send the information and the data to your app, so you can really keep tabs of what you're doing physically. I wouldn't say this is aimed at high-end sportsmen. If you take your running seriously, your gym seriously, maybe it's not for you because it doesn't read your heart rate. But if you really want to get something that's going to inspire you to walk better and get to your daily targets and also be able to check out your notifications, and I must say the design is quite pleasing to the eye. They've got different color straps, you can tell the time, etc. This is not a bad device. It's the Fitbit Ultra, and it's available in South Africa right now. Thank you for joining us tonight on Techbusters. Lovely to be with you, and thanks for all the comments that you've been sharing with us. Keep them coming in.
Indeed, you can email us at techbusters@abn360.com or tweet us at techbusterssa. He's at Aki Anastasio, just rolls off the lips, doesn't it? I'm at Shapshak, also rolls off the lips. And we will see you next week. Good night.